Mike Tyson very famously said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And speaking from experience, I can tell you that that's true. But for me, in my experience, the plan for me actually goes out the window a little bit before that. Because as soon as that first bell rings in the first round, I get this hit of adrenaline and all of my plans, all of my schemes, everything that I thought I was gonna do just goes out the window. And in that moment, it comes down to, what have I trained myself to do? What does my body remember? Without me thinking, without me having to really try and manipulate it into doing anything, what does my body remember to do? What's the muscle memory? For me, it turns out, this isn't what I wanted it to be, but it turns out that my body defaults to clinching. Now, if you've never clinched before, which most of you I would imagine have not, clinching is a very grueling way to fight in Muay Thai. Very, very close quarters, up in your face. It's like wrestling. It's very upper body heavy. You're trying to manipulate people, move them around, throw them to the ground. Earlier this year, I prepared for 3 fights over the course of 3 months. And in each one of those fights, I went into the fight planning and expecting to perform and do, like, the strategy was different. But in each instance, I defaulted back to what I had been training myself to do, even though I didn't think that I was, which was clinch. The first fight was in Arizona. It was for a tournament, and I was fighting in a bigger weight class than I normally would, and the guy that I was fighting was taller than I was, which I'm not used to. And we had planned to be nimble, to be sort of outside and move in and like pick our shots and box and be a little more technical. But that bell rang, and like I said, the plan goes out the window, and I went straight in for clinch. Well, in that particular fight, the guy was bigger and stronger and longer than I was, and so I ended up just getting punched in the face a bunch of times. I did okay in that fight, but I lost. In the next fight, I went in thinking, okay, this guy's a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna be technical, I'm gonna stay long. I'm gonna jab a lot, I'm gonna throw my left teep, which is a long kick. I'm gonna try and keep him back and then just outbox him. I'm gonna try and outpoint him, essentially. And as soon as that bell rang, plan goes out the window, and I went right back to what I defaulted to, which is clinch. Now, it worked in this case because my cardio was better than the other guy. And so I was able to maneuver him, manipulate him, move him around, knee him a bunch of times, and ended up winning that fight. And then the third fight in this little series, same thing happened. I really, really wanted to come out and box a little bit stronger than I had in the past, because my boxing has never been my strong suit. And so what we planned and we trained and we prepared for boxing, and same thing, that bell rang. And I did a little bit better this time. I lasted about 20 seconds before I went back to what I default to, which is clinch. I was able to beat him. And in the third round, I did some really cool things. Swept him a couple of times, which was a lot of fun. But I ended up winning those second 2 fights, because I had been preparing at least for the gruel of clinch work. And in a fight, you can't lie. You can't hide behind it. Like, I can't come out of those fights and say, well, we had planned on staying long, and fighting at the end of my punches and staying out of his range and doing my own thing. We could say that all I want, but what does it matter? Because after the fight, I did what I did, and what I did was what I had trained myself to do. And I think there's an important parallel there, because when crisis hits in life, we always do what we've trained ourselves to do. And so it's very important that you prepare for those moments, because make no mistake, it is going to happen. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. If you run a business, you are gonna wake up one day and it's gonna feel like you've lost everything. When the crisis hits and you don't have any money, are you gonna have already planned and been disciplined to put money aside for those days? Or are you just spending every cent that you make? For the longest time, the way that I prepared was by not preparing. But the very minute I get hit with some kind of a crisis, some kind of a business problem, a client doesn't wanna pay or there's some issue or whatever, I go into, I can't think, I clam up. It destroys me. And it's because I have not prepared myself and been disciplined enough to train myself to react appropriately in those situations. And it's simple, and from a business standpoint, you gotta prepare for clients not paying, which means you don't spend every cent that you make. It means that you leave some in the business so that you can still pay yourself. Winners are always preparing for the war. Losers don't even realize that there is one.